Hey guys, it's Brittany. So today I'm going to go over the common symptoms that women will experience after going through a labor and delivery when it comes to perineal pain. Now, there's a lot of similarities, and I will also go through the TBR2 rubrics that come up and show you why Arnica is the thing that is always recommended and does seem to help a lot of women. I really liked doing this exercise because, Arnica is one of those things, people are always like, oh, you just need to take Arnica for everything after you give birth. And I hate those stories, right? It's like, well, who said? And why? And why is that true? Right? In homeopathy, I feel like we tell ourselves these stories a lot, and they don't necessarily have a lot of evidence behind them. They're just hearsay. We just hear them from our teachers and we just are supposed to do them, and I hate that. So I very much enjoyed this because it really shows that actually Arnica really is very well suited to this particular complaint. So I hope you have as much fun as I did. Anyway, maybe not everyone is as much of a nerd as me. That's okay. I'll show you anyway. So the perineal trauma after labor, there's going to be two basic symptoms. There's going to be pain in the perineum, and there's going to be a bit of swelling in the perineum. This is pretty much universal. If someone had a C-section and didn't go through really any active labor, they may not have much of any of these symptoms, but even if someone ended up having a C-section, if they got relatively deep into the labor process, they may have some perineal pain and swelling, depending on if it got to the point where it got stretched, sort of got, put through the ringer a little bit. So the type of pain, this is not like your sharp stitching kind of pain. This is usually aching, it's dragging, it's pulling, there's going to be heaviness. There is often, the swelling is not, it may not be necessarily so hard in swelling that it's an indurated type swelling, but it's definitely a bit more tense of a kind of swelling. Women will often feel like they are sitting on a lump or a ball. But as always, if you're doing this for a patient, check with your patient because everyone's going to be a little bit different. But those are sort of the general symptoms. If you have somebody who had an episiotomy, there's also going to be a laceration, of course. If you had a forceps or vacuum delivery, like the person had a forceps or vacuum assisted delivery, they're going to be a little bit more beaten up in general, because of course with both of those, the perineum has to stretch even larger to accommodate the instruments, and there's going to be a little bit of contusion, like there's going to be a bit of that the instrument hitting the perineum, which will create additional trauma. Okay? Now, let's take a look at some of the rubrics. So, here we have the TBR2. We have our large sections over here. We're going to go to generals. I like doing it this way because you get to see the way the repertory is put together, which I often find I lose in other computer programs. It's hard to sort of understand how it's put together, so I will show it to you this way so you see how everything's put together. So under generals, we've got bruised pain, right? A kind of contused pain. And the peritoneum is, of course, outer parts. Now, you obviously wouldn't use both of these. It's up to you which one you want to use, but I will just show you. And then, of course, I skipped blows up here. So it may feel like pain as if from a blow, right? Now, heaviness is the next one. So we're going to go down here to heaviness. And again, outer parts. So right now we got a standoff between a couple different remedies. Ruta and Arnica. In this very inaccurate repertorization, because I've got so many duplicates. You would never include all of these different pain sensations, right? You'd choose like the one or so that is most apparent for the person. Now, lump sensation is also in the same section here. Lump, foreign body, ball, peg, etc. sensation. Again, outer parts if the person feels like they are sitting on a ball that is external, right? Now we are down to 3 remedies. Look at that already. Next one, let's do pressing. So it can be pressing, like I said, or aching. Now this one is interesting. This may not be applicable to all people, but think of this example here: a violent forcing and straining. Oh, ignore that. A violent forcing and straining towards the genitals, as if it would all fall out there. Worse when sitting bent forward. Yada 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 yada. So this may be something to consider. If someone has, sometimes after labor, a woman will feel like when they stand up, it's like everything is going to fall out their vagina, right? You might have, and if it's a kind of urging, pressing kind of sensation that way, this is a rubric to consider. Oh, I wanted to just point out a couple back here. So now you might think, so the injury to the perineum is from a intense stretching, right? The perineum has to stretch to like 1,000 times its normal size. That's not exact. I just remember it's a lot. I don't remember the actual number. But, so you might be tempted to think of this extending, extension, straightening out of limbs rubric, or stretching, extension with stretching with. Did I say that right? What did I say? Stretching, parentheses, extension with stretching, and parentheses with. So these I do not recommend, because, if you read the endnotes, always read the endnotes, they're so helpful. Right, she has to extend and stretch herself, which feels very pleasant in the afternoon. Extending and stretching of the lower limbs. Pain as if being beaten or sprained in the whole back with an inclination to stretch it. No woman, let me put it to you this way. I dare you to find a woman who wants to stretch her perineum, her perineum, again after giving birth. Okay? They are not going to want to, so I wouldn't recommend this. And often, even though, you can think of the etiology as a kind of stretching, the sensation afterwards is not one of stretching, right? It's more of that dull, aching, pressing, dragging, heavy, that kind of sensation, okay? So steer clear of those two. That's the most common pain sensations, I think, although of course that's open to interpretation. So let's look at some modalities. I should have said earlier, so you could be tempted to think of the location as the perineum. The location is the perineum, obviously. Now, I haven't included it in this repetorization because I don't think you need it. And with injury type things, now you could of course argue labor and delivery is not an injury. It's a natural process, and that's true, but we're sort of repertorizing it, and I sort of look at it from a homeopathic standpoint as a kind of injury, and injuries can happen anywhere on the body. So to me, for an injury, except in some particular circumstances, the location is not that interesting to me, because it could happen anywhere. Now, you can't give birth anywhere. I get that. This is definitely something you could debate, but I just have chosen not to include it here. Okay. So, modalities, situation and circumstance, and we're going to go down to injuries. Here we go. Injuries. Now, the ones I would look at are if you have had an episiotomy, an incised or lacerated cut, of course. Now, here. Soft tissue parts. The perineum is, of course, a soft tissue, so this is a very applicable rubric. And if you could use the bruises and contusions rubric potentially for any vaginal delivery because of the way it feels. It feels like a contusion kind of thing. But, you know, the etiology is really not a true contusion. At least not the way I don't know. You could definitely look at it that way because the perineum gets a bit compressed when the head passes through the birth canal. But to me, the more important thing is the stretching. But if you've had a vacuum extraction or a forceps assisted delivery, you've definitely got some bruising and contusions. Now, you could also think of bruising and contusion for the baby, right? Because they have undergone that kind of compression, the way you do with the bruise or contusion, quite a bit, right? Mom, not so much, but babe, definitely. Okay, now look at this beautiful chart, all Arnica, right? But of course you've got some others here. So, you know, if you've got sort of an atypical presentation, there are plenty of other remedies that you could think of. But to me, this is why I actually got very excited, because I was like, oh yeah, actually there's very good reason to give Arnica after labor and delivery for both mom and babe. Okay, now if you feel like you want some other modalities, you can look at pressure, like I was talking about before. If you no, I wasn't talking about before, but anyway, I'm losing my mind. It's Monday morning here. It's amazing that I'm semi-cognizant right now. So you want to pay attention, careful attention to modalities, because I think they can be a bit misleading. So if you've got somebody who says, oh, it's always worse when I first sit down, well, you might be tempted to use the worse on sitting, but, you know, if you think about it, it's also pressure, right? Because that is the area that gets pressure when you sit down, okay? And if it's better lying down, well, that one I do think is helpful, but I would make sure that you're not confusing it with a lack of pressure, right? Because there's no pressure when lying, right? Depending on how they're lying. So anyway, just pay attention to those careful, making sure you're differentiating between those different things. Also with the peri bottle, you are going to want to make sure that, so if you don't know what a peri bottle is, I'll try and add a picture. But women are sent home with it from the hospital, or they will buy it on their own. If they have a home birth, the midwives might give it to them if they have a home birth. All of this depends on where you are, obviously, because birth is different in a lot of different places. But a lot of women will say it's a lot better. Their pain is a lot better when they use the peri bottle. Now, there's 3 potential things that could be going on there. There's better from washing. There's better from cold, if they like cold water, and there's better from heat. So make sure you understand which one of those is happening. Often women will say it's better from using the peri bottle, and usually it's about the temperature, as far as I can gather from patients myself and spending a lot of time on birthing forums to put this together today. Not something I ever thought I'd be doing, spending so much time reading birthing forum posts, but I guess that's where life took me. Okay, so then the last one that's really common is better resting or lying down. Let me see if I can find it. I'm not sure where it is. So let me look. Resting. There we go. Okay. All right. So better from resting in a recumbent posture. Worse from movement. Okay, that's very, very common. All right, so I hope that was helpful. I hope that gave you some good ideas. As you can see, Arnica is a great option for moms, new moms, newly postpartum women, whatever you want to call them. Language in this area is so difficult. Anyway, till next time.